So welcome to this video. This is a quick garden pitch to have a look at some of the specs and differences between these two tunnel tents from HILLEBERG. This is the HILLEBERG Nammatj 2 Black Label 4-season tent. This is the HILLEBERG Nallo 2 Red Label 4-season tent. My friend Andy here, who's with me, has got considerable experience of using this tent. In fact, this is his second one. I've got limited experience with the Nallo 2, but this is not about kind of like performance. This is just to look at specs and sizes. We're having a bit of fun in the garden, and it's just to have a look just in case you were considering buying one. So in this quick look, I'm going to show you the external specs, sizes, the pitched specs, and then we're going to bung a couple of mats inside, and you can have a look to see how it looks with two large full-size rectangular sleep mats space-wise. Thanks. Just to help you, the Nammatj is green and the Nallo 2 is tan. They are both the non-extended versions, just the compact ones. Pack size, and both of these have got the factory footprint, the poles, and no pegs. So that is 46 by, little squish, 23. And the Nallo 2 is, give it a little push, the same, 46. Give it a little squish by 20, kind of as you expect. Now the weight, 3.14 for the Nammatj, 2.74. So about, what, 400 grams difference there. So let's get these pitched and we'll have a look at the sizes. And of course the Nammatj is described as a black label, all seasons, extreme conditions. The Nallo is a red label, 4 seasons, but not for the most extreme conditions. So this will do most of what you need for the British winter. This is Scotland, summits, high winds. Okay, that's it, lovely. Both of these tents are really quick to pitch. If you want a super quick pitch, probably the Nammatj needs an extra peg at each end because it wants to get these hoods out. But you can see the difference in design. Both of these, of course, are a 2-pole tunnel tent. The Nammatj is Kieron 1800. The Nallo is 1200, and I think that means this is a 30D, and is that a 40? Yeah, and the floor in the Nammatj is 100 denier, and the Nallo is a 70 denier. So we've got slightly lighter materials, and I think it's a 9mm pole and a 10mm pole respectively. So let's have a little look at the door configuration. Andy's just raised a good point in the pitching process. With the Nammatj having the same length poles, you don't have to fuss on thinking which pole is which end it should go on. Of course, the rear pole of the Nallo is a little bit shorter. Something that both of these tents have that I consider a must more and more nowadays is with the door shut, you've still got some venting here through monofilled mesh, so any spindrift blowing in won't get through, or the tent manufacturers take note. And the Nammatj has a large mesh panel there. It's like a high density no seam mesh, the monofill, and then identical at the rear here with a large vent here. These are infamous, these big hoods here, they're distinctive, aren't they? And of course the Nallo has a kind of rear vent thing going on, probably for more favourable weather, when you could just lift the tail up there, and there's a small inner tent corresponding mesh vent, but that would enable you to get some airflow through there. But in very wet, or more likely high spindrift conditions, that's not going to be desirable. So definitely the Nammatj will be the better ventilated tent in storm winter conditions, and probably in the summer as well. So door configurations, we've got a single door then, Andy?
Yep.
Just a side opening there, and I think the Nallo kind of wins out a little bit on door versatility here, because we can open right up this central door. It's nice and spacious. Now, the thing I don't like about the Nallo, it's got a single toggle here. I don't know if modern versions are better. That's if there is ever such thing as a modern version of a HILLEBERG. Yeah, so with this door, you can kind of have it completely open there. The inner's not connected because I had it out for drying. I'll reconnect that now.
I'll do that.
So I kind of prefer the door option of the Nallo. So Andy's kindly attaching my inner tent for me, helpful guy that he is. Call me a child, but I can never get away with that word vestibule. It sounds like you've got your vest tucked in too tight, and it's catching your bules. So the width of fully, just quickly, 145 here of the Nammatj. The depth of the porch is 112, and the height here is a maximum 105 centimeters. So there's certainly space in here for me to get changed. You couldn't get two strapping chaps in here at the same time. You'd need the extended version for that. So let's look at porch dimensions of the, come on Andy. Thanks Andy, what a guy. Okay, so the depth here of the Nallo fully is 120. We've got a tiny bit more depth. The width is 145. I think that was the same. And then the height maximum is 110. So, strangely, we'll check that. Looks like the Nallo is a little bit larger here, just a little bit. Nice. Probably not as cozy inside, because if it was bad weather, you had that side door open of the Nammatj, you'd be out the rain. In this, you'd have to zip the door down, but you know, no hardship there. Let's just check that with the Nammatj. Yeah, width and depth is about the same. The Nallo does have about 2.5 centimeters more, but of course it's the inside volume where the Nammatj will start to win out, and that's where you live. Okay, back in the Nammatj, let's have a little look at the door here. Andy Wardle, silent zips. So, pretty cavernous in here. You can see that this is a double door that you can tie back or shove in the pocket there. There's another pocket this side, a rail line thing at the top. I'm measuring the width in here to be a nice 130 without pushing against the footprint. And then the length overall to be 210, which is not, you know, I like it if I'm going to fit the dog at the bottom to be 230 or 240. That kind of rarely happens. I think in the centre here it goes a little tiny bit wider to 135, but of course you've got this nice long height inside. And of course the height is 98 with me pressing down into the grass a little bit. So the manufacturer's specs might say something a little bit different. We've got the V vent here, and the option to get through to the rear outer vent and open up the monofill mesh, and then there's an ordinary outer mesh there. So there's both monofill. So that would be spindrift, rainproof, but still allowing ventilation all the time. And you can choose the ventilation there, have them both open, one open, or both closed. And of course, you can tune the ventilation through the rear here. So you've got a good number of options there. Looking at the inner tent of the Nallo 2. Got a double door again, of course. Very similar sort of look and feel inside. But of course, we've got the taper down inside. We've got a similar arrangement with a pocket either side. Let's have a little look at the dimensions here. So we've got 130 at the front here, and then at this point in the centre 120, so it starts to get narrower, and then at the foot end we've got 110. So, you know, a reducing width and a reducing height. At the front we've got 105, so we've got slightly greater height at the front in the Nallo, but of course much diminished here. So if you're getting changed, sitting up, you're going to be doing all your business, admin up at this front end, and that's going to be just where your feet go. What was the length? Have we got a little bit more length? No, we've got the same 210. Not massively generous in length. I can fit in it, but two people and the dog, that would be difficult. Okay, here's two large full-size mats in the Nammatj 2. On the left here is the Thermarest Neo loft, and this is the Nortent Torv 7, and they both just fit in there, but as you can see, with only a tiny gap. No space for the doggy and precious little for any equipment. And let's fill it up with two strapping blokes. Okay, we're both over 6 foot, both about 85 kilos. And there's the dog as well. So we can fit in here fine. I have a little pocket here. Obviously space for our equipment and cooking. We could survive in here, couldn't we, Andy?
100%.
It would be absolutely fine. And then you'd have space to do your own stuff without kind of interfering with each other, if you'll pardon the expression. What do you think? You like it, don't you, Bodie? Okay, let's look at the same thing in the Nallo. Looking like a tight squeeze in here. They'll go in at the nose, but I think we're going to be needing the mummies in here. And I can kind of get them in if I crease them up, but you know, it's not really happening. You'd have to have 50 centimetre narrow mats in here, or a wide mummy. So you could have one wide and one narrow, that would work, but otherwise it's just not happening. You getting in, Andy, or not bothering?
I'm alright.
Don't blame you. So yeah, I think two smaller people or one on their own. Now, the price of these obviously is money. So in most sites I've looked on, the HILLEBERG Nammatj is 150 and this is 1050. So just £100 difference. And Andy's choice here would be the Nammatj. And I have to say, that would be mine as well out of these two tents. So what else should you have a look at? So the obvious thing that comes to mind is a tent I've used extensively before, the Nortent Lee 2. About £300 to £400 cheaper, and the thing I really like about it for stability is it's got this kind of like central pole here, but it's a cross sleeper, Hasn't got the protected vents at the end, which I think is a major bonus. And also the obvious one that's in sand is the MSR Tindheim 2 that is only around £450. Looks very similar to the Nammatj, but just a 3-season tent. I've tried to speak in a loud voice to give the neighbours next door a hint, but it's not happening. British summertime, eh? Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this. Kind of like comments below, which one would you buy, or neither? Would you look at the Nammatj Lee 2? I'll put a link up there to a wild camp in that, or even the excellent MSR Tindheim 2. Thanks for watching, and thanks to Andy for your help once more. And guest appearance by Bodie. And just for a little bit of tent fun, Andy's just pitched his Kieron 4, isn't it, Andy?
Yep.
But just to have a little look, see how it's doing. Sleep 4 in here, lengthways. Would be cosy, but we were just discussing how it looked like the Nammatj Lee 1 and Lee 2 that we pitched adjoining. But this is a tent for another time, another place.